Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, good luck everyone. I'm starting the meeting. Great. So good evening everyone, and thanks for joining this fifth session of the Prepathon series, which is organized by Education USA India. Um, we will just take a few more minutes because I can see a few more people joining the session, and we are all allowing them to come in the room. My colleagues, they are taking care of allowing all the students. Okay, so we are also now live on the Education USA YouTube channel. Um, Once again, welcome to the session, Making the Best of the University Resources and Support Services. My name is Rupali and I am an Education USA advisor at the United States India Educational Foundation in New Delhi. I will also be moderating today's session, and I am very thankful to my colleagues, Janet from Education USA Ahmedabad, Mirin from Education USA Hyderabad, Aditi from Mumbai, and Megha from Education USA New Delhi, who have graciously agreed to help me and provide support to this session. Um, the question comes, how did we decide on this topic? Actually, we are doing this kind of a session for the first time where we are speaking in details about the university resources and the support services. So while we were all, the Education USA India was all discussing about the session topics for Prepathon right in the beginning of the year, we decided to do this topic because we always felt that the students, they move to the university as international students, but sometimes they completely get lost. They carry with them lots of challenges, and we want to make their transition very smooth. COVID-19 has added to the to their um, COVID-19 was unfortunate and we couldn't do in-person sessions. So we started with this prepathon session, and that is where we decided that it is critical to know about the university resources and support services before a student begins the college. And also there are very small issues like once a student gets admits, where should he or she start looking for support services? How can the international student services, I mean, every university, they have international student services which help them with their personal issues, anything related to financial services, visa related problems. um, um, the students should know about those services. Your parents, I'm sure there will be so many parents who have joined in today. And if the parents couldn't join, and you can always share the recording of the session with your parents, because they are sending their kids. They are worried about your well-being. How can the support services in the colleges help them? So all these questions were coming into our mind, and that's the reason we thought, let us do this particular session on making the best of the university resources and support services. We'll move to the next slide, please. Okay, so we all are very well versed with the housekeeping rules. I need not repeat them again, but just a piece of advice is here that use your headphones for enhanced audio quality and keep your camera switched off. You all have been attending so many Zoom sessions and all the other platforms. So just keep that in mind. And during the session, you can type your questions in the chat box. As we are live on the YouTube also, you can also type your questions in the comment box, and we will make sure that all the questions are addressed at the end of the session. Now we'll move to the next slide, please. Congratulations. I mean, I'm sure this is, with my heart really is so happy for all of you who have made to the US universities. I know I am with Education USA for the more than 2 decades, And I see the kind of happiness when the students, they get their I-20s and they look for starting with their onward journey. So congratulations from all of us from Education USA India, and you all will rock in the US University. Just make sure that during the session, we'll also post some links to important resources. So just make sure that you make a note of those links. Take a screenshot of any of these slides you want. This is an important slide. You can make a screenshot of it. This is the 5th session. We have 3 more sessions lined up on July 14th, 21st, and July 28th. So make sure that you attend those sessions also. They are really going to help you. Today we are going to speak about the resources, but the next session is on how to be college and career ready while you are there pursuing your studies. Okay, so again, not to remind you, all of you know about Education USA. It is the official source on US higher education, and our main mission, main mandate is to provide accurate, current, and comprehensive information. And the most important is the unbiased information to all the students. So if you have any siblings, if you have any cousins, uncles, aunts, friends, do tell them about Education USA. Tell them about our centers. We are a global network supported by the US Department of State, and we have 430 centers in 170 plus countries. So in India also you will find 8 centers now. We have 2 centers in Hyderabad. We have a center in Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, and New Delhi, which is the flagship office. So anytime, just look for Education USA. Even while you are in the US, you have to guide anyone. Education USA is your official source. Move to the next slide, please. Okay, again, you all are again very well versed with all these 5 steps, because these are the 5 steps which each and every student has to follow in order to reach to their dream schools. There may be a few students who are attending this session only to gain knowledge. In case you are there to start, if you're starting the process, you have to start with all these steps of researching your options, financing your studies, complete your applications, visas, and then the pre-departure. The ones who are only there to, who are leaving for the US in the coming months now, for them you are right here on step 5, which is prepare for your departure. So always students stay connected with us. Move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So you can always stay connected with us. You are the ambassadors. Always remember now, once you reach there, you will be the ambassadors, and you can stay connected with Education USA. You can attend our alumni fairs, take permission from the universities. It's not that you can just say yes to them. You have to talk to your international admission officers, undergo some trainings, and then you will be ready for to represent the college. You can participate in panel discussions, International Education Week, which will start from November 2nd week. So participate in that. Show your interest. Share your stories on hashtag #MyEdUSA stories. We will highlight them on the social media all across. If you like writing, if you want to write an article, you are welcome to write that. We'll also share your articles. We have a lot of articles on our websites. You can always check those articles also. Encourage your friends or anybody who wants to start with the process to read these articles and understand the journey of all the students. You can join us on Instagram Takeover. So we would love to have all of you back. Again, you can take a screenshot of this slide. This has the email IDs and telephone numbers of all the 8 centers of Education USA. I will not take too much of your time, and I will now introduce you to our panelists. Okay, before that, we have the session, the entire next 1.5 hours is now covered into 3 parts. We'll have part 1. We'll move to the next slide, please. We'll have part 1, which is getting started and engaging with the university. And we have with us Dr. Anna Weiss, who will be presenting on this particular topic. Dr. Anna Weiss, she's Associate Dean of Admissions and Director of International Recruitments at Hamilton College in New York. where students hail from 51 countries and represent 8% of the student population. She has recently completed her doctorate at Northeastern University and is a frequent contributor to the field of international higher education, serving in various capacities for NAFSA and Study Maryland. I have personally been for Study Maryland. I can vouch for it. It was such a wonderful experience under Dr. Anna. Dr. Anna she presented at conferences in 6 different countries, and she has traveled to nearly 40 nations to assist international students in their pursuit of higher education. Welcome, Dr. Anna, to this session. And I know it's early in the US, but you graciously accepted to be on our panel. Thank you so much. We have Tanishq Khurana today with us, and Tanishq will share his experience as an international student. Tanishq is a junior. He's majoring in stats and computer science at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and he has been working on the campus as an intern, as a course assistant through his sophomore year. So he has been quite active in the student community at UIUC, and he has been handling roles such as Secretary of Philosophy Club and as a ASEAN chapter on the campus. That's great, Tanishq. We would love to hear your experiences as an international student. And we are now finally joined by Bhavna Jolly. Bhavna is our Senior Program Officer at the EducationUSA at the USIEF, which is United States India Education Foundation, New Delhi. In her role as SPO, she leads and supports the EducationUSA program in India in collaboration with centers across the country to promote US higher education, foster bilateral student mobility, and advance the US Department of State's public diplomacy efforts. She will today share her experience as an international student. We are very, very happy and thrilled to have with us Bhavna. She was having a very tight schedule, but she agreed to share her experience with all the students. Thank you so much, Bhavna. So without taking too more time, over to you, Anna, and you can start with the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rupali. It's wonderful to be back presenting virtually with EduUSA India. I know during each of my travels in the past, I've always made sure to visit with as many of the centers as possible, as I do view EducationUSA India as one of our primary partners within the region. So I'm very glad to be here and hoping very much to see some of you in person this fall, as I am hopefully returning to India this fall. Now, with that said, I'm very glad to talk about this topic. And the topic is really about how to prepare for resources and support at your university or college once you arrive. Now, the first thing I would like to do is I'd like to talk a little bit about what you should be thinking about now. You've been admitted to the college or university, and what can you do to prepare and make sure that you are setting yourself up for the most success at US colleges and universities? So I think that there are several portions to this. The first is, of course, taking the time. What can you research before you arrive? What can you learn about? And how can you make a plan for things and how to get the most of your education before your studies start, as that is the phase we're in right now, before your US studies has occurred. So I want to talk about what some resources are that you should be thinking about and preparing about, things you can research on in advance before arriving. And also I want to talk a little bit about why this is important, because I think sometimes when you come to study in another country, it's easy to think some of these resources are not necessarily the primary goal, right? We all understand the values of things like internships and research opportunities, but we might not necessarily understand the values of other resources that colleges can connect you with. And so I want to talk a little bit about why those are important, so I can hopefully encourage you to get involved in multiple opportunities and utilize multiple resources that the college or university has to offer. So with that said, you have now been admitted and you are coming to the United States, which is very, very exciting. So the question is, what can you do next? So before you do arrive in the United States, really your primary goal is to be able to research, be able to know what opportunities are available. I'm going to talk a lot about trying to make sure you have a loose plan in place, things you'd like to take advantage of, ideas where to go when you're encountering certain types of challenges, It's important to have that plan in order to be able to open yourself up to the opportunity that you will experience when you are in the United States. It's kind of similar to when I travel. Whenever I travel someplace, I always want to make sure I know the outlines, where are my plans, what's my logistics, but then I want to have space for exploration and opportunity once I am traveling as well. It's that combination between knowing where to go for resources, but also making sure that you understand there are going to be more resources than you can even imagine beforehand. So you need to be able to set yourself open for those opportunities. Realize US colleges and universities, while there are over 4,000 of them, each of them is going to have a different set of resources for you to consider. So the first thing you want to be doing right now is researching what types of opportunities exist at your college or university. What's something that is a must, something you definitely want to take advantage of, and what's something that might be nice. An example would be potentially study abroad. Now, a lot of you are already coming to the United States to study in another country. So the idea of doing a travel semester or even a travel trip over the summer to another country might sound a little bit daunting, but realize that these are opportunities to research, to think about, because there are a lot of international students who have really great experiences studying in the United States and can also complement it with opportunities such as study abroad or fellowship or even research projects that are conducted off campus as well. How can you do a lot of these research projects? Of course, the website is a primary resource for you when considering opportunities at the institution. And I'm sure you've also already discovered some of the social media groups. Most of these colleges will have Facebook, Instagram accounts. Some of them may even have WhatsApp groups. They may have admitted student groups. If you've been invited to any admitted student groups, definitely make sure you're taking advantage of those opportunities, as they can be great ways to also get to know your classmates before you're able to arrive to campus. Now realize if you reach out to a college or university and say, can I meet with all my classmates in my incoming class? Likely they're not going to be able to share all of that information directly with you for privacy reasons. But if there is an admitted student group, such as a lot of colleges and universities will have Facebook groups, including mine, for instance, we'll have a Facebook group for admitted students. If you choose to join with that, it can be a great opportunity to be able to connect with some of your potential future classmates or even roommates before you even arrive. Now, I want to highlight faculty and staff profiles, because I don't think everyone necessarily realizes that these are accessible from a lot of websites and that you can actually reach out to real people at US universities. So I know a lot of students that I work with in India have really great ideas for research projects or ways that they want to get involved in their education and the hands-on learning early on. If you're interested in projects such as research opportunities at your college or university, sometimes it can be really beneficial to pull up from the website and see what types of research projects are happening in a field that you're interested in. If you're interested, for instance, in physics at a college or university, you can oftentimes find all of the physics professors listed there on the website, as well as their research focuses, classes they've taught, and even email addresses where you can reach out to them. Now, one of the things that can be helpful is potentially reaching out to a professor saying, I'm an incoming student from the class of, if you're coming to the US now, you're probably going to be a class of 2026, saying I'm an incoming student in the class of 2026, and I'm really interested in this class that you've taught, or this research project that you're working on. I'm looking forward to coming to the US and was wondering if there is any way for me to be able to get involved once I arrive. Some students will find research opportunities even as early as your first semester if you have these types of contact opportunities. Now, maybe you say that seems a little bit rushed to me and I'm not quite ready to join a faculty research project before I've even come to the US, but it can also be really helpful for you to plan and think to yourself, what are some classes that I might want to take before I come to the college? Or even what are some professors? Who are some professors that I would really like to get to know? An example for this is in the United States, most colleges and universities will require faculty members to have what we call open office hours. Open office hours means these are reliable times per week, usually 2 to 4 hours during an entire week, where these professors will be in their offices with their doors open, with the goal being they want to connect with students, and students can come ask them questions, even whether you are taking a class with them or not taking a class with them. This is a way to get to know faculty members who are involved at the college, and also potentially to get opportunities for things like research programs in the future. So even if you're not ready to email the professor right away, it can be helpful to say, hey, I know that there are a few professors here that I'm really interested in. And you can help plan to say, I know during my first semester or during my first year, I would like to visit an open office hour for this professor. And you can kind of plan in advance and lay that out a little bit. Now, some other things that are important, you can oftentimes reach out to current students at the college or university. As I mentioned, colleges and universities likely will not be able to share with you all the names of your incoming classmates, but they will likely have students who have already agreed with their office to connect with new incoming students. So it can be really helpful if you reach out to an admission officer, such as myself, or whoever it was that helped you through your application process at your college or university, and say, are there any current students that I can connect with to kind of get a feeling of what to expect for coming to the United States? And you might even ask to connect with a current student from India. Most of them should be able to connect you with current students from India who can share some of their experiences and also help to answer a few questions that may be lingering in your mind and causing you a little bit of nervousness, like how is it your first time in a US classroom environment? Or what was an item that you really need to remember to pack that might not be quite obvious that you would miss if you didn't bring it with you? So these types of questions can be really helpful if you connect with a current student. So I want to encourage you, if you have not yet created a network or connected with any students from the institution you're attending, consider reaching out to your admission officer or whoever it was that helped you through your application process to connect with a current student, ideally from India. Now, in addition, you can talk to this admission officer and say, now that I'm enrolled, I'm wondering if you can help connect me. Who would I talk to about questions I have about orientation process and questions about, is there airport pickup, or can you suggest a transportation from the airport to the university campus environment? There will usually be a resource, an office, a department that's there to help make sure that your arrival is as smooth as possible. So reach out to the admission officer and ask and clarify, who should I reach out to for questions about orientation or arrival support? Now, finally, it is really important for you to continue checking your email very frequently. Most of you will also receive contacts over the summer from your college or university. If it doesn't happen over the summer, it will likely happen in the early days of your fall experience, where they will invite you to set up what we call your .edu email address. So if you were to attend Hamilton College, your name would be your name at hamilton.edu. This will be then your Hamilton email address. But for most of you with your colleges and universities, you will also have a specific email address that will be set up for your status as a student. Don't worry if they haven't contacted you about this yet. This might be more of a mid to late July type situation, but definitely keep an eye out on your email address for when this account comes, and you want to set it up as soon as possible, and then make sure you're always checking your email, because there are oftentimes forms and requirements from the college or university that will be shared with you through email. And you definitely do not want to miss one of those forms, because that's going to make your arrival and transition to the college so much more seamless. Next slide, please. I want to make a quick moment to talk to parents as well, as I know we do have parents on this call as well. Now, with parents, this is a very big moment as well, right? Your child is now going to be studying likely thousands of miles away in another country, pursuing their education. And it's easy to be fairly, to have some trepidation about this, as well as, of course, excitement for them and the opportunities they're going to be able to experience. So the first thing I want to highlight is the reality of keeping an open mind. Coming back to that metaphor that we talked about earlier, making sure that we're aware of the structures, plans, and resources that are there to support your student, but also to realize that there needs to be space for the student to grow and explore during their time in the United States. And the reality is that this educational process, this is going to be a transformative portion of your child, of your student's life. It is come study in a foreign country, pursue your education, all of the soft skills, along with the academic and educational skills that come back. It's going to be a large growth period. But in order to do that, we need to realize one, support systems in place. Your students are so grateful for the level of support that you've been able to give and been able to continue to give, but also to realize that they're going to need some space and ability to expand, and also recognizing that this transformation does not always occur linearly or in the ways we anticipate. When I talk about soft skills, really what I mean for that is leadership ability, communication ability, ability to mitigate conflict, to work in a group with other people, these types of skills and opportunities that are really going to service us all as humans living in this very complicated world, and will help your student navigate this complicated world as an adult. And realizing that a lot of these soft skills come from trial and error and the opportunity to be able to experience life, including in these colleges and universities. So I would encourage you to have conversations with your students, reminding them and everyone in the family agreeing, what was the reason initially that your student decided to go and study in the United States? And what was also the reason that you decided we're going to support this? There's likely a goal involved, something you want for them, something they want for themselves and for their future. Remembering that there is this focus and this overall goal can help both parent and student sustain themselves, because the reality is a 4-year education in the US or a 2-year postgraduate education, these are long periods of time. We're going to need to be sustained in remembering what it is that brought this student to the United States and what the goals are for the end of the day. So having these types of conversations can help make sure that your student is focused, and also that you are reassured. Your student remembers the reason that they're here to come to the United States, and that can help them, help everyone a little bit relax and realize that sometimes, as long as we're moving in the general direction of this goal, sometimes the pathway might be a little different than we can anticipate, as we cannot unfortunately control everything, but it's within that slightly varying pathway. As long as the goals are on target, it's within these varying pathways that growth will occur. And with that said, I do think it's very important, if possible, to create a network of other people who get it, if you will forgive that phrase. And the reason for that is, again, you are very excited, very hopeful for your student and all that they're going to grow and accomplish during their time in the United States. But I'm not telling you it's not natural to be stressed about certain elements, right? So if you can connect with other parents who can kind of get what's going on and understand that conflict, both the idea of, I'm very excited for what my young person is going to experience, but I'm also understandably a little nervous. If you have people to talk to, this can be really helpful also to create community. WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups definitely exist. I know, again, our institution, we have a Facebook group and WhatsApp groups for parents. Some of them are, the Facebook group is run by our admission office, which is for admitted student parents. And WhatsApp groups are actually more homegrown, where a lot of the parents of different students at our institutions have created their own communities where they're able to collaborate and support with each other. I'm going to move on to the next slide. So again, one of the things that I really want to focus on is why all these types of resources really matter when you come to a college or university. Because oftentimes when we think about education, we are really only focused on the academic aspects. Like oftentimes that big goal, when we talk about what is the goal, is I want my student to be able to earn their degree, their bachelor's of science in whatever type of subject it is, so that they can get a job. That's the eventual goal, right? And that's a really important part, of course, of any educational experience. But the reality is that no student, the students that we're talking about, we are all human beings. In order to be a human being, we cannot be singularly focused just on academics and neglect the rest of what it is to be a person. So what we're going to talk about resources here today. And what I want to do is I want to talk about why these types of topics are important, even if they might not seem on their face value as critical as something like, what academic major are you going to study? They are very critical because they're going to be part of the experience. Now, what you're looking at here, this is a theoretical framework that has been developed, which talks about international students who are studying in the United States and their adjustment to campuses and universities. So what I want to talk about is a little bit these different stages, what this means, and then I'm going to talk about how resources can help students move through these stages. Now, the first stage that you see here is called pre-exposure. This is, of course, where we all are now, right? So this means this is before the student has arrived in the United States. What can you plan for? What have you seen before? When you connect with current students from this college or university, what do they tell you? What does the website reveal? What are your expectations for coming to the United States? Now, you can only do so much preparation in this stage, right? Because it's before you arrive to campus. Now, exposure is the next level. This is when you arrive to the college or university. Now you can actually experience what is it like to study and live here in the United States. The reality is there's a lot of opportunities, but the reality is also that there are going to be portions of your studies that are very hard. Think about it this way: if it was an easy process, everyone would do it, right? And again, if it was an easy process, that would limit the growth potential, because the reality is that a lot of the things that make us grow, make us develop as people, end up are difficult in a certain way, because that's how we grow. So exposure means the first time you are in person in your college or university in the United States, and you really get to see, oh, this is what things are like potentially here as an international student in the United States. The next phase that a lot of students will go through is called enclosure. This means, oh, I've arrived in the United States. I now see what this is like. And honestly, it's a little hard right now. I'm a little stressed. I don't know too many people yet. I'm away from home. Maybe I'm missing my home. And there's a lot of different cultural differences going on. And when that happens, sometimes it's easy to retreat a little bit. So enclosure can mean several different things. It can mean spending more time inside, talking to your family, talk to your friends, and not necessarily talking to people at your college or university. It could also mean, hey, I'm in this new environment. I found 5 other students from India, and I'm just going to keep eating and sitting and talking with these students from India because it's comforting and it gives me this connection to home in the face of so much difference on this college campus environment. Now, enclosure is a part of it, right? Because as human beings, we all want to feel secure. When we're encountering different types of environments, it can be very natural to reach for that which is familiar and that which is comfortable. But if we stay in this enclosure phase, we are definitely limiting ourselves from some of the growth and the opportunities that can come once you push through the enclosure space. So when we talk about all of these resources that I want to discuss, the goal is to help bring you past this enclosure space, because this is the one where students can get caught if you don't ask for help and you don't know what types of resources are available. So the goal of the resources we're talking about is to help you from enclosure to emergence, where you say, okay, I need to go out, I need to grow. There are opportunities here. I know there are going to be portions where it's uncomfortable, and I know that I'm going to take the time to support myself and nurture that which brings me joy. But it's time for me to emerge and to put myself out there and to speak up in class and add an opinion, or to join a club or organization, some type of environment that's new to you, because the goal is then to move into integration. Integration is where you come into the phase where you say, now I feel like I'm truly part of this US college campus community. I am one of the students here and I am part of this community. Now, after the integration stage, so once you feel part of this community, you can then move towards the internationalization phase. This phase really means you can be comfortable in India, you can be comfortable in the United States, you can be comfortable studying abroad, potentially in Italy or in Argentina, because you've now realized that while there are, yes, a lot of differences when you study and live in different types of countries and cultures, there are also a lot of commonalities and things that can bring us together as humans. And you are confident enough in your own ability to connect with others while also supporting and remembering who you are and where you come from, so that connecting with others in different countries is it's much easier, and you can truly be an international citizen. Now, with that said, we're going to move to the next slide. And again, our goal is to move from that enclosure to that exposure, to that the next phase, the one that was after enclosure. It was emergence. So a lot of times when we think about resources in colleges and universities, it's easy to understand certain opportunities and offices that are there as resources for you, and other ones can be maybe a little bit less well known to you. So I want to talk about what some resources are that most colleges and universities will have to encourage you to understand what are their functions, what offerings do they have, and how can they support you throughout your studies. And this again comes back to the idea that while studying in the United States is going to contain multiple opportunities and really wonderful experiences that are going to be very life-changing, really, as part of your experience. There's also going to be times when things are hard. This is the reality. What you're doing is a hard and a brave thing. So it's important to know that colleges and universities, particularly those, most colleges and universities in the US have been here for a long time, and they have worked with a lot of students and served a lot of students, which also means they have seen a lot of challenges that students can encounter as part of their studies. So many times these colleges and universities will have resources available. That's part of your tuition that you've already paid to the college and university, available otherwise free of charge, that are there to support you. So I always tell students that the reality is there will be a time when something is going to be a barrier, something's going to be a challenge for you in this college or university. And there are two ways to approach it. The one is to stay enclosed in your room and just to suffer or struggle and talk to your family and friends about it, but not do anything about it. And the other is to say, I have this challenge. I understand that it's a natural thing that has occurred because I'm doing something that's very hard. And I'm going to see what types of resources are there to support me, and realize that if you're able to ask for help and to go to the resources that can support you, this is a mark of bravery, also of intelligence, and recognizing the humility, which is that you're a human being and there can be support systems there to help you. And this is a strength, not a weakness, when we ask for help from opportunities that exist here. In addition to that, just in basic economic sense, you're paying tuition and support most likely at your college and university, which means you're paying for all of these resources, so you might as well utilize them. Now, with that said, the first one to know about is the international office, right? Hopefully, at this time, you have heard from the international office at your college or university. If not, this is an excellent next step for you to do, to reach out to them, because this will be the office that will be offering you support for your I-20, support for if you ever were to get a OPT or CPT or anything like that. They also will likely run your orientation process and will serve as a key resource to make sure that you maintain your status while you are in the United States. Now, different international offices can have different levels of support. Some of them will run international student orientations specifically. So my college, for instance, international students are the second population of students that arrive on campus. So they arrive before the majority of all of our students. And we start with an international orientation weekend where we do meals in introducing students to different faculty and staff members across campus that can be really helpful for international students to know about. We also do things like trips to local malls that is organized by our International Student Association, where upperclassmen, where international students can go with our incoming international students to help them understand what types of things should they maybe be buying or thinking about for their residence halls, and what's helpful for them to know at this point. So all different types of ways to get our students comfortable on campus before the rest of the community comes. And a lot of colleges will offer some type of international orientation process. They may also offer airport pickups and transportation logistics support. International office is definitely a place you want to connect with. They can also offer even multilingual language support as well. Now, of course, I know that English is widely spoken across India, but I also know that it can be sometimes a very different thing to speak 3-4 different languages. As I know several of our Indian students speak so many languages, but also it's a different thing to write an academic resource paper in the United States. So sometimes it can be really helpful to work with a multilingual support person, and international offices can help connect you with those resources as well. Health services. This is a department that every college will also offer in some way. Health services, this can be everything from bringing on-campus doctors, physicians, physicians assistants, mental health counseling. This is a real challenge that we need to be prepared for as well. A lot of data has suggested that our entire world is really going through a mental health crisis, not only because of and wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, but there's been a lot of things going on. There's been a lot of things going on, particularly recently, that have been impacting mental health support offices. Now, colleges and universities will usually offer free mental health counseling for students as well through the Health Services Center. So the Health Services Center on campus can also give you support for things like Do I have all my immunizations and vaccinations set up before arriving in the United States? What types of health forms are required of me? They can also help you with questions such as health insurance. In the United States, health insurance is going to be a requirement for a lot of our colleges and universities. And they will have processes which says, if you don't have a health insurance plan before coming to the college, they can help connect you with a health insurance provider that will meet your needs during your time there. But health services department will be available on each college campus and will include access to things like basic medical assessments. We can also oftentimes do send prescriptions to those offices as well. So it's definitely an important office to understand and potentially connect with if you have questions about things like what vaccinations and immunizations are required and how do I get health insurance in the United States. Campus safety. This is another office that's really important to know about. And safety is a very, very crucial aspect, of course, of any campus studies environment. And the reality is that US colleges and universities prioritize safety above all else, really. And most of them are going to be very safe environments. But did you know that it is a law in the United States, which says that each college has to have a campus safety office, and that campus safety office has to publish 3 years worth of campus security safety data on the website. So if you are going to a college or university and you want to know about safety on campus and in the surrounding areas, you can actually go to the campus safety website. And you might have to dig depending on how they put it up, but it's a US law that says that there needs to be, I believe it's 3 years worth of safety statistics that you can pull up there. And so that's something you should look for. Realize the campus safety officers, usually they'll have, as part of the orientation process, they will have students download onto their phone the emergency contact information, sometimes an emergency notification app as well, to make sure that you're able to connect with campus safety officers. And sometimes it's an actual emergency, and sometimes it's also for additional types of support. Maybe you've locked yourself out of your residence hall, or maybe it's late at night, you've been in the library, and for whatever reason, you don't feel safe and confident walking home or going to wherever you live. Campus safety officers will usually be able to escort you in that environment. You might have to wait for a few minutes in the library, but then a campus safety officer will come and pick you up if you ever, for any reason, felt unsafe. So campus safety is a really important office to know about as well. Food and housing. I'm putting these together because oftentimes we think about them together, but realize they may be two separate offices. And this also does, this is specific for students who end up living or having dining plans on US college campus environments. A lot of us do, but not necessarily everyone. But realize, if you have food allergies, or if you have religious considerations, certain types of foods that you're not able to eat for religious purposes, these are US colleges and universities are generally equipped to help you with this type of environment. You can even reach out to the dining facilities ahead of time and ask and say, if I'm keeping a specific type of diet, is there one residence hall or dining hall on campus that's better set up for those types of opportunities? Or is there one dining hall that focuses more on international cuisine? There can also be ways that you can share a little bit of your home culture through this environment. For instance, my campus has a program where you can bring a recipe, any kind of recipe, maybe a family recipe that you've really enjoyed, and you can share it with the dining facility, and they will make it at least one time during the semester. And you can tell your friends, today we're going to be eating whatever the one recipe would be that you want to share with the community. But realize that colleges and universities do have support systems for food. For housing, this is another type of conversation. If you're going to be living in a US college or university, it is likely that you will be having a roommate at some time as well. In order to be connected with your roommate, you will probably have to fill out a series of housing forms. Now, this is one of those reasons why it's so important that you continue to check your email, because these housing forms will be communicated with you most likely in that way. They're going to ask you a lot of questions, things like, are you an evening person or a morning person? Are you a tidy person? Are you a not so tidy person? So some things are going to be very basic kind of compatibility questions. And they may also have sections where they ask you, what would you like your future roommate to know about? And usually there's a very thoughtful process in place to connect you with a roommate who will be compatible with you. And usually it's a great match. Sometimes it is not a great match, right? This happens in life. Now, if that happens, realize that there is a housing department, a residence life department is sometimes what it's called, residence life. And they have a process for considering any kind of conflicts that may arise with a roommate, and if necessary, replacing either you or your roommate into a new environment. But realize that kind of support is there and in place, but also try to be positive about it as well, as I have found that the vast majority of students are quite satisfied and quite pleased with who the roommate is, as long as they followed the housing forms and all of that. Spiritual support. This also goes towards what it takes to maintain our humanity and things that are important to us. If your spiritual life, your religious life is something that's really important to you, realize you also have resources for that. The international office can sometimes be a good starting point to say, what type of resources are there for supporting whichever type of religion it is that you practice? My college also has a specific department of spirituality, and we call him a chaplain, but he serves for multiple different religious backgrounds. We have religious services that can serve multiple different types of spiritual communities. These resources are available, but oftentimes it's finding where to worship before you arrive, and this can be something to plan for. Career services, of course, this is a really important resource for you. A lot of colleges will have multiple layers of career services. Some of this is bringing employers to campus. Some colleges may even have resources. My college has a program we participate in that specializes in connecting international students with either companies that are willing to sponsor for H-1B working visa after graduation, or international companies that are looking to hire US students or international students with US degrees. An example I use would be, say, Pepsi in India, something like that, where companies look to hire people with US degrees who are international students. So career services centers can have specific resources, and your first year is likely a little early to be thinking about things like H-1B or working opportunities, but it's not too early to be thinking about, how do I prepare for an internship? And beyond that, how do I prepare myself to be open-minded about my career opportunities? Oftentimes we tend to think very linearly with our career opportunities, right? I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be a doctor. But the reality is that the world is the global workforce environment is a very rapidly shifting and dynamic place. We've seen a lot of changes also even since the onset of COVID-19, where we talk about things like supply chain management. I know I talked with a lot of students who are interested in topics like artificial intelligence. And one of the topics they want to know is, how does artificial intelligence, how is that going to impact the career that I'm going to have after I graduate? And so rather than saying, I need to be preparing for one specific career, you can utilize your career services and think a little bit more big picture. Think to yourself, okay, if the world is changing very rapidly, and I know that artificial intelligence is going to change things even further, maybe it's better for me to keep an open mind and to think to myself, what types of big world problems exist that I'd like to be part of the solution towards? What types of fields are emerging that are targeting and are working in that type of area? What types of opportunities are available in that area? And you can connect with your career services, which can also potentially connect you with alumni to help encourage you to think about what types of opportunities or emerging fields might be of interest to you. You can then start with conversations with those types of connections before then leading into something like an internship. Again, this might seem a little bit early, but realize this Career Services Center is there for you as well. And academic support. Academic support can mean a lot of different things. Most colleges and universities are going to connect you with an academic advisor. This is going to be either a faculty member or a professional staff member who is there to help make sure you know what is expected of you in order to complete the degree that you are seeking, what types of classes should you be taking, and how can you make good academic choices. There may also be academic resource centers, for instance, a writing center, which is a place where you can take your papers to receive specific tutoring opportunities. There can be a lot of academic support systems in place. So if you are encountering a specific challenge, or if you'd like to serve as a tutor for a class that you're really excited about, those types of opportunities can exist through academic support. So the important thing to realize is, when you're researching what type of opportunities, Make goals, make plans. Who can I turn to in case of challenges in the classroom? Who can I turn to if I'm very homesick and I need to talk with a counselor? But realize that we're not going to be able to talk about all the support systems before you arrive. There's going to be more opportunities that occur. So make sure that you are open to those opportunities as well. Next slide, please. So, as I said, we're making a plan, but we're getting ready to grow. Now, I want to make a quick comment because I think there's a portion of studying in the United States which we talk about, but we don't necessarily explain and can sometimes lead to stress. As I mentioned, one of my goals for this session was to talk about why there is more than just academics that are important for you to be considering when you're studying in the United States. And part of the reason is because we want you to be able to move from that enclosure to that emergence phase in order to make sure that you're getting the most of your opportunities within the United States. Now, a lot of you may have chosen your college and university for academic purposes to begin with. Now realize in the United States, it's a different education system than the Indian university education system, or even than the United Kingdom education system. So realize that statistics tell us that a lot of students will end up shifting their major during their studies. And parents, if this happens to you and your student ends up shifting, don't freak out. Don't freak out about it. But realize this is part of the experience and part of the growth, and the academic advisor that your student works with will be able to help you navigate this shift. I'm going to move a little bit quicker because I think I'm talking a little too long. With find admission officers, we tend to do that. But I want to make a quick comment that if this occurs, this is not the end of the world. This is something that US universities and their liberal education based are designed to support as your student is growing as a person. If you want an example of this as well, the fact that the subject that the student studies does not necessarily correlate directly with with the field they end up going into. My college, Hamilton College, we have one of our alumni we like to talk about, Mark Randolph. He's a co-founder of Netflix, the major streaming company. When he was at our college, he actually studied geology, geosciences, which shows you that the subject you study in college sometimes doesn't necessarily correlate directly with the field you're going to do after you graduate. That does not necessarily mean a bad thing. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about nurturing humanity as well. As I said, I know I'm running a little bit over at this point, but I think this really emphasizes the point that I've been trying to make, is that in order to get the most of your time in the United States, you need to realize that there's going to be more than just academics, and the goal is to get you from that enclosure to that emergence phase. And the goal at the end of the day, I've highlighted the fact, which sounds very obvious, but happy college students are successful college students. If you're able to keep your mental focus, your mental health, and nourish that which brings your humanity, that is going to help sustain you as your studies get more difficult and as things are hard. So this means it's really important for you to think, yes, what resources are there, but also to prepare yourself to emerge within your community, because connections to community, studies and research shows that if you are connected to community, if you feel part of your environment and you're able to go into the integration and internationalization phase, those students have the highest academic results. They also have the best job offers after they graduate and the highest success rates within life after graduating. So realize that it's important to ask for help if things are challenging, but realize also you need to nurture your humanity throughout your studies. Next slide, please. So I have a couple of quotes here. You can maybe take a quick screenshot, but this is just some quotes from some of our Indian students at Hamilton about ways that they've gotten involved with our community and how important that's been to them during their studies as well. So just a couple of quotes, but we won't read through it. We'll move right along to a couple of to-do lists. So next slide, please. To do, make sure you're checking your emails. Make sure you realize through those emails, have they asked you for any forms or things that you need to complete? Do you have summer assignments? These are things that are important, so you need to make sure that you are completing your assignments. Find your resource network. This is what I mean by researching and coming up with your plan in advance. When things get hard, where can you turn? And helping to make sure that plan. Plan for ways to get involved throughout the community and also plan for resources to turn to. But realize you can't plan for everything before you arrive. So it's important to have a loose structure in mind, but then also to be open to opportunities. Reach out to current students if possible. If possible, students from India, or at least an international student at the college or university, which can really help you understand what to prepare for. Research the opportunities that you have, research internships, all these opportunities, and make a plan again for when things do get hard and realize that's likely to occur. And finally, get ready and excited to come to the US. We're going to do a quick overview again of a recap of the emergence process. Next slide, please. So remembering again the stages, the first being the pre-exposure. That's where we are now. Exposure, realizing that some of that is going to be a very different experience than what you've currently had. This can sometimes lead to enclosure where students retreat and don't necessarily put themselves out there as a way of protecting themselves. But it's important to be able to move from enclosure to emergence, and from emergence to integration, feeling part of the community, and finally to be able to establish yourself as an international student, international citizen. Now, with that said, I wanted to say thank you. I know we're going to transition now and talk about student experiences. I'll be there for questions towards the end, though. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. It was a very, very insightful presentation, and I'm sure students have noted the important areas which really need to be focused for their onward journey. Thank you so much. We have a few questions, but we will. I'll ask you once Tanishq and Bhavna are done with their parts. Tanishq, welcome.
Hello, ma'am. Hi, everyone. How are you guys doing? I'm Tanishq, and I just want to start with sort of congratulating all of you with getting your admissions done and starting to prep for your journey to the US when starting your college experience. So I'm going to cover.
I would also like to ask you a few questions in the sense you religiously used EducationUSA services. And when you went a few years when you went to the US university, can you tell the students who have joined us today, how did you really engage with the institutions to look at various resources? Anna gave a detailed information about so many resources and services which are available from, but as an international student, we would like to hear from you also. And what advice would you like to give to the students who are now about to embark their academic and professional journey?
So one of the main things that I did was I was online for my first semester, but I made sure that I was looking at all the emails that were coming in. So a lot of them contained important information about orientation that happened during the first week. Even though our orientation was online, that doesn't mean that yours will be too. So do go for that orientation week if you're arriving early in the United States. You should definitely visit your assemblies and whatever events you have on campus. For example, we have something called Quad Day where all the 2,000 plus student organizations on campus sort of have a stall at our university court, and they present to people what their club has to offer. It presents a great opportunity for you to sort of witness what clubs you might be interested in. Some new ideas that you haven't really thought about can come up there. You might join clubs that you didn't think you would join. And there are so many things to explore within different categories. You'll find religious clubs, you'll find athletic clubs, you'll find Greek societies that you can join for various purposes. So there's multiple things to do in college. It's just you need to make sure you have the right access to them. And the orientation week presents a good head start towards equipping yourself better to manage your time and to manage the student organizations that you become a part of or support services that you might want to avail. So yeah, I think that orientation week really gives you a head start, and then from there onwards, you find people, you meet with your advisors, you meet with so many professors. They give you certain opportunities and they explain to you how certain resources work and how you can avail those opportunities and resources. So yeah.
Would you like to tell them to hang out with not only your Indian buddies, but make friends, and during the orientation also how important it is?
Yeah, if you're hanging out with only international students, not just Indian students, but if you're hanging out with international students from Europe or China or Africa, you will definitely have global perspective. But studying in the United States, one thing that you need to understand is that it is really important to understand the domestic dynamic as well. So if you're not sort of engaging with people who have homes near college, who live in a state nearby or something like that, you'll really lose out on some local experience or domestic experience that you might have otherwise thought of getting once you were entering college. Obviously, it's good to have a huge, varied and diverse group of friends. But sometimes, if you feel like you're comfortable with a certain group and don't want to venture out, that's also okay. I mean, it's making friends is not something you can prep for, but it's something that happens naturally. All you can do is keep an open mind when you get there, understand how where people are coming from and what their intentions are. And yeah, you every college, every place has so many nice people that are just ready to welcome you.
Tanesh, I always remember and I always give examples of your interest in subjects like computer science, statistics, and philosophy. And I read mentioned it in your bio also that how interested were you in joining the philosophy club. So was it right in the beginning you advised the students to just look for clubs, or how did you go ahead with this philosophy club?
Yeah, so I'm entering my third year now, and I will still go to quad day just to figure out clubs that I want to join. Because it doesn't exactly how Dr. Anna mentioned, like people change their degrees, people change their majors, people here also change their interests really quickly sometimes. Um, for example, I was part of, I was a CS and philosophy major before, now I'm a stats and CS major. Um, who knows, maybe I'll add a minor next semester. But and from that's one thing. The other thing is I was part of the philosophy club, and I'm not anymore because I'm more interested in what the stats club has to offer and what the ACM chapter at UIUC has to offer, which is sort of like a computer association. So your interests keep changing, and that means that you always have to make sure that you're sort of engaged, even if you're not engaged directly, sort of indirectly in the student organizations that are on campus, or sort of the resources that they have to offer students, because you never know when you're going to need those things, and when you feel like there's a need to change where you are currently. So yeah, I think you can get into it from the beginning, but even if you don't, even if you feel overwhelmed, you feel like there are more important things and more pressing matters to attend to, it's fine to skip that part to next semester or the semester after that. It's sort of be more comfortable on your own time, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one last question I have for you, Tanish. Though we will be covering the career readiness in the next Prepathon session, but you mentioned a few days back that you did some on-campus jobs and you got a chance to do the the CPT, which is the curricular practical training program. So, would you just share your experience and how did you actually happen to go to that particular resource or that particular office and indulge in this particular trainings?
Yeah. So CPT, OPT, stuff like getting your SSN would look really difficult from the outside, but getting getting a job on campus is very easy. All you have to do is go to whatever career website your college has. Almost every college has one that have jobs relating to, let's say, your dining halls, job relating to being at the library, working at, let's say, your so some reception or the other. There are multiple options. So if you're looking for just a job to earn money to sort of help yourself out financially a bit, you can definitely get a job on campus without much experience. And that would then in turn help you getting that offer letter that you can then use to obtain a social security number as well. So some people have that doubt in their mind that, oh, I need to obtain an SSN as soon as I arrive on campus. No, you don't. You can wait for a long while to get your social security number done. And yeah, as soon as you have a job, you're eligible to get your social security number from the United States. One thing that I also wanted to cover was CPT. So I recently just went through the whole CPT process because I'm working as an intern. Um, the whole process is extremely simple. It takes about, some colleges might take 2 weeks, some take 1 week, some even take 5 business days. Um, so you have multiple documents that you have to submit. You have a couple of forms to fill, and then you just leave it up to your international student services at your college, and they'll do basically all the work for you. CPT is sort of an easy process that can be done within a week. OPT, however, is a much more complicated process, and I think it'll be better explained by people who are coming there next week. Yeah.
Yeah, we will cover all about assistantships, on-campus jobs, other opportunities, your work-study options in our next session scheduled on July 14th. Thank you so much, Tanishq. I know it's so early in Illinois, and thank you for connecting with us. I also have a few questions, but I will just go to Bhavna now, and I will get back to you, Tanishq. Thank you so much. Bhavna.
Thanks.
So, yes.
Hi, Rupali, and hi, Anna.
Thank you so much for joining. I know it was a long day for you, yet you agreed to share your experience with the students. Thank you so much. And you have a US experience also, and so would you like telling our students how should they get involved in various clubs and organizations? Tanishq just focused about his experience of going to and joining the clubs, but as an international student, we would like to listen from you also.
Thanks, Rupali. Thanks, first of all, for asking me to join this conversation. Pre-departure orientations and the Prepathon series is one of my favorite sessions to participate in each year, because I basically get to talk about what I did in the US and, hopefully share some examples that students might find useful. Anna and Tanishq have shared such excellent examples and resources. I think they've given, especially Anna, I think she's given a 360-degree view of how we can really maximize our time in the US through the resources. And, I was just so happy to listen to Tanishq. I don't know if Tanishq remembers me, but I remember him when he used to come to Education USA. And I'm already seeing such a wonderful, lovely, I don't want to say change. I can see Tanishq evolve. It's just wonderful to see that lovely confidence and such great insights as well. What I'd like to share about clubs and organizations is essentially, I basically echo what Anna and Tanishq have mentioned. I was a very, I was quite the introvert. I was also very shy when I went to the US. And I never thought that I'd participate in anything. During my college years in India, so I had, I'd already completed one degree in India. And I did not do anything on campus in India except, a couple of required extracurricular activities. But when I actually went to the US, number one, I found a very sort of conducive environment for me to go and explore different activities, different things, or different interests that I wanted to pursue. I think there was also a general sense of openness among my peers. I felt comfortable enough to go and ask questions. There were some clubs that existed on campus, and there were some that didn't exist on campus. And I remember there were people who started new clubs. And that's another thing that, you must remember, that you don't just have to join something that's available. There will be multiple options. I'm sure you'll find something that you want to do. But if you have a passion project or something that you feel other people might also benefit from, you can also kind of, contribute, and you can go to the student services office or whichever organization in your institution, whichever organization basically handles clubs, and ask them if there is a possibility for you to start your own club. So that's something that you could do. But yes, student clubs will allow you to kind of explore your other interests. They will help you make friends, who are not necessarily from the same academic background, and that always helps because you learn so much from people coming from different academic and intellectual backgrounds. And yeah, so those are some things that I thought I'd also share with you. But I really sort of, and I've noted it down, and I've talked about nurturing your humanity. I could, and when Anna talked about that, I could actually sort of see that in my own experience as well. Initially, I was just sort of absorbing everything. I was observing things. I was asking questions. And then there came a point where I felt confident enough to contribute and to give something back to my college community. Started by participating in different activities, launching new initiatives, helping the administration of the institution with any areas where they needed help of students and student ambassadors. And so that's very important as well. I also have an unrelated point to make, but maybe Rupali, I can do that right after you ask me the second question, if there is one.
Yeah, definitely, Bhavna. So I know you have been initially introvert, but then slowly you participated in lots and lots of extracurricular activities. So would you like to share with the students, how did these participations and getting involved in all these clubs and organizations really shaped your personality? You are the SPO now for Education USA, and we are so happy to have you. And you manage so many things all together. So would you like to share your experience with the students?
Sure, Rupali. So, I came from a very protected sort of an environment, as many students do, especially at the undergraduate level. And so I was very apprehensive to do anything new, to try anything new, to talk to new people. But I actually realized somewhere along the way that all of these people and the resources that were available to me became my biggest support points. That's when I started, it's when I actually started accessing all of these resources and started talking to people that I realized that, I had my home away from home in college. I can just give a few examples of some of the things that I was able to. Tanish gave the example of CPT, of being able to work on campus and finding jobs on campus. I agree with him. I remember I really wanted a job on campus. And for me, that was the real start of opening up a little bit, because I needed the funding, I needed to work. And so, and I remember there weren't any job postings. I kept looking, I kept checking the website, the employment portal of the university, and I just couldn't find anything. And I remember asking for an appointment with the associate director of the student services office at the University of Maryland. And she graciously agreed to meet with me, and she thought I probably just had some questions about student services or resources on campus. I told her that I needed a job, and she actually found an opportunity for me in her own office, and I worked there for the next 4 or 5 years. I also remember going to the Reading and Writing Center. I wanted to get an essay reviewed. And just by going there a couple of times, I remember I was eventually offered a job to be a tutor there, to be a guided study session leader at the Reading and Writing Center. And there were other job opportunities that came up on campus. Of course, I had to remember to do 20 hours a week. But there were other job opportunities that came up, and I got to know a lot of people on campus. A lot of those people helped me with these job opportunities because they knew that, I needed to work. So there's always going to be people to help you. I think what's going to be very important, and this is again a point that has been touched upon earlier, but you've got to ask, don't be shy to ask. I know sometimes it's very difficult, But believe me, the kind of environment that you will find on campus, uh, if you ask, you shall receive. I mean, that's literally true for a lot of US universities. Um, there is a resource for, almost every need that a student has. And if there isn't a resource, the university will find ways to create one for students. But it's very important that you sort of voice that out, that you share that with the right people. I was a little over enthusiastic. When I remember during orientations, I made sure that I noted down everyone's names, all the important people, their email IDs, or their contact information, so that if I needed to be, get in touch with them, then I knew where to go or whom to contact. So that's something that you can explore doing as well. But yeah, I remember I was a student ambassador. And so I used to, receive a lot of these state guests, a lot of governors of different states, and other, VIP guests on campus. I would give them a tour of the campus. I would talk to them about my experience. I was also a part of the International Student Club. And we used to put together a lot of events for students year on year. We had a budget that was given to us. I used to work in student services at the student library, and I was also assisting a program director. And that work, in fact, was quite strategic. And there were a whole lot of other things which I can't even remember. There's like Kanish was saying, you'll be finding different things to do. So don't restrict yourself to just one thing. You may want to do something in the first or the second year, and then in the third or fourth year, it might be something else. So be open to exploring all of those opportunities. Ask questions. It's okay if you don't know something, and it's okay if you need help. Please make the effort to ask questions, and you'll find the answer.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. All of you had an overwhelming experience, and I'm sure all the students are looking forward to now go and just explore their new life and balance their academics and with everything. So thank you so much, Bhavna. I have a few questions now, and I'll open up to these questions. Okay. Anna, this question is for you. If I want to seek mental health counseling, will my request be kept anonymous? I mean, and where should I go? I mean, this is an important question, I think.
Thank you for asking this question. It is very important. So the first thing to realize is in the US, privacy laws about these types of things, disclosures, this is a big deal. So it's important to realize that in the US, there are laws. So if you talk to professionals in offices such as most likely wouldn't be in the admissions office, but likely would work with the health services center, is that any conversations you will have with them will be confidential. There are slight exceptions to this, and that's only if things they learn represent a risk to either yourself or to others, but they can explain that to you directly. So if you have questions about that type of confidentiality, the overarching information is it will be kept confidential with the people that you talk to. However, if you want to know in which circumstances would they share this information, they will be prepared to tell you what they are. And they are truly in very extreme circumstances where something represents a risk to yourself or to others. Otherwise, there's a very important law in the US that also stipulates that if you disclose any kind of mental health conditions or learning differences or anything like that, that this information cannot be held against you or shared in other types of capacities. So realize that as well. But again, if for your own peace of mind, you want to ask them, they will tell you exactly in which circumstances they would need to share.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. Tanish, this question is for you. How did you balance your academics with your practical training? I mean, was it really a very overwhelming experience, or do you like to share your experience with the students?
Yeah, absolutely. So last fall semester, I was interning at a company that has an office near campus. And I was part-time interning there, and I was studying on campus as well. So it can get a bit hard, for sure. There are times when you don't know if you want to complete your work, or you want to complete your student work, or you want to, go to that club meeting or something like that. So there are a lot of things to do at the same point in time, and it does become hard. But I think if you manage your time even slightly better, or if you have some sort of uh, way to keep track of time and what kind of time, how much time you're spending on a certain task, then you'll really be able to optimize your experience and make sure that there's no time that is being just wasted in the day when it could be spent doing either work or studying or just going out, having some self time, working on yourself, or if there's a hobby you like, for example, if you play the guitar or something. If you're really taking that time out to relax, why not just sit down and play the guitar, right? So I think you just need to manage your time better. There are times when it does become hard, but then again, there are services to help you with that. So if you're feeling, you have work, but you also have to study, there are tutors available, who will help you with your work, who will help you understand concepts that you might have missed in class, stuff like that. Students who have taken the class before, and everything. So I think even if you do, are having a hard time, there's so many resources to help you out with that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Bhavna, we have a question for you. The student is asking, are the library and writing services available 24 into 7? You mentioned about you joining the writing centers and services. How comfortable was it to go anytime during the day and use these services?
This can vary by institutions. Institutions will have, or reading and writing centers will have their hours of operation. They will tell you that their walk-in hours. They will tell you what the appointment hours are, etc. And it's for libraries. There are a lot of libraries that that function 24/7. There are some that have specific hours. There are also libraries at colleges or universities that will extend their hours closer to exams, especially at the end of the semester. And I remember our library used to have timings, so it was not a 24-hour library. But I remember my shift at the library. It was the graveyard shift, literally, because the library had extended their timings for students to prepare for examinations. And so that's the time that I used to sit in the library, and I also used to be able to read quietly and help students whenever they came to the counter. But it gave me time to kind of work on my projects, on my assignments, and prepare for exams, etc. The other thing to know about these services, whether you're a beneficiary of these services or you're part of these offices and providing the service to students, is you must talk to the people that you're working with. If you're providing the service, that is, if you're working in the reading or writing center, or if you're working in the library or elsewhere, and you have to manage. I'm just adding to what Tanishq had said for the previous question. It's important that you let people in positions of responsibility or people that you're working with, let them know if there are any competing priorities, if you need to give time to certain things. I have found that a lot of times departments or wherever you're working, they will make accommodations for you. I remember in whatever jobs I worked, if it was a job where I had to kind of sit and wait for people to come in, I was able to do a lot of my schoolwork as well. And this was known to the people that I was working with, and they absolutely allowed that. So you can, that's one opportunity that you can utilize by talking to them and letting them know beforehand what your schedule is. That will help you prioritize your time and do two things at once. So about the timings, must check out the timings of your library, your reading writing centers, and any other, the computer lab. That's another important, that used to be a very important space for us, I remember. So all of these places, I think you must know the timings and see if they have extended timings during certain parts of the semester or times of the semester, and they'll let you know.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bhavna. And I have a very interesting question. Can international students get financial support to participate in study abroad programs? Because this is also one area which is very, very important for the students when they go. So would you like to answer this?
Yes. So important first caveat is that this will depend institution by institution. So you need to be able to ask this type of question. For the majority of US universities, any financial aid that you have in order to be able to study at that institution would come with you to your study abroad programs. This is a majority, but it's not all. So you do need to ask, because it also might say if you are looking for this type of exact same financial aid and same costs and everything, that maybe it means that there are certain programs that you can consider and certain ones that you cannot. My institution, for instance, the cost of participating in any of our off-campus study programs is exactly the same, and any financial aid would come with you. But you do need to consider this, and it's a question to ask. So make sure one of your resources, if you are studying on financial aid and have a scholarship, one of your resources to be familiar with should be your financial aid officer as well. So being able to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm considering I'd like to do a semester in Italy. Would this be possible? And they should be able to answer for you.
Yeah. So that's what Bhavna just mentioned. You have to ask. Don't be shy. Ask whatever questions you have, whatever related services you want. The US University, they have extremely great services, and each and everyone is there to help the international students. Another question, Anna, there is we have received is about what if I am struggling with my studies? What support can I expect from the university?
This will sounding a little repetitive, but realize this differs for each institution. But the important thing to realize is each will have resources for your support. So the first thing I would say is you know yourself quite well, right? So a lot of students tend to push themselves. They want to register for every class they can and get a lot of things out of the way early on. But remembering again, nurturing that humanity, and it's very easy to overwhelm yourself. So if you're taking a class, maybe you are more of a mathematically minded, maybe less of a mathematically minded. For those of us who might struggle a little bit more with those quantitative sections, I knew when I was a student, if I'm going to take a very heavy mathematics focused course, it's important for me to know where to turn for tutoring resources ahead of time. On the other hand, if maybe you struggle a little bit with longer written papers, realize, hey, this is somewhere where I need to grow. And if you are, the purpose of going and getting an education is to grow. So realize that if you know this class I'm taking is going to have a lot of writing in it, maybe setting appointments in the writing center earlier rather than later. Because one challenge that sometimes occurs is students wait until things are already bad before you ask for help, right? But realize if you say, I know this semester I have a lot going on, let me make sure I'm getting the support system before things get bad, right? Because that's the goal. It's a lot easier to do that versus to dig yourself out of a situation that's already occurred. So my overall advice would be, no matter how clever we all think we are as people, right? Particularly for your first semester, I would go to as many writing centers, academic resource centers, and tutors as possible, just to know what's helpful, what's not, and what's there. And again, to set yourself up for success before things start to get bad, because it's always easier to do that in a proactive versus a reactive way.
Thank you. I think we can take one more question. What should be the criteria for choosing medical insurance? You spoke about health insurance. So the student is asking, would you recommend any prominent insurance service providers? Do the universities have their own providers? Or they should look out for other private resources?
My first piece of advice is this is a complicated thing. This is complicated. Don't make this decision without checking with your college or university. So that's the first piece of advice. I would reach out to the health center and say, you might find on the website specifically saying it says these are the two plans that the college recommends, because most of them will have relationships with different medical insurance providers, which will get you less expensive plans. It can also be sometimes covered by financial aid and things like that sometimes, but make sure before you navigate this system, you talk to somebody, you get an email where you say, is there a provider that you would recommend that the college works with? And If not, then what are the specifications they should have? Because what you don't want to do is, and we all know some people will try and sell you products that are not necessarily great and might take advantage of the fact that there's a lot going on, and they can try and sell you something that's not great. So make sure you talk to somebody at the college or university. Ask them, is there a partnership that I can sign up for? And if not, what kind of guidance can they give you? Because the reality is US insurance can be both complicated and expensive. So we need to make sure you're making good choices.
Yeah, that was very useful information, Anna. And I think now we have to wind up the session. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Anna, Tanish, Bhavna, for taking time out and sharing very insightful information with the students. On behalf of Education USA India, I wish all the students who are joining this fall good luck to you, and stay blessed and stay happy, and just complete your studies, and we would love to have you back with us. Thank you so much and have a good day. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Everyone.